Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Analyst for 24th of August 2023, where we will be trying to discuss the most important articles in the two important newspapers, The Hindu and The Indian Express. So, looking at the developed contents, we are seeing that the very first article is the most significant article today because India had its first moonshot, specifically because our Chandrayaan 3 landed on the moon, and this is a very joyous occasion. The next article is regarding the One Health approach that India needs to adopt in order to secure its health ambitions. The next article will be according how artificial intelligence need to be ethical in nature, and the next article will be regarding the right to information portal and how there are some issues regarding this. And finally, we'll be wrapping up the session with the World Trade Organization's dispute resolution mechanism. Now, before starting the very first article, let me tell you that the handouts for this discussion is available in the description. So you should definitely check it out for your own convenience of note making. Now, the very first article is regarding the Chandrayaan 3 landing on the moon. And this is why important because in our GS3 we have something known as achievements of Indians in science and technology and indigenization of technology and developing new technology. And we are talking this. Why? Because our own Chandrayaan 3, after years and years of efforts of the Indian Space Research Organizations, or ISRO as we know it, their own efforts have culminated in these historical efforts. And here we can understand that this is the most significant event that I can tell even in this particular year, because India is one among the 4 nations in the world after US, United States, the Russia, China, who have actually landed on the moon, right? So we have to understand from where it all the Chandrayaan 3 actually evolved from. So actually what happened back in the early 2000s, our Chandrayaan 1 was launched for the very first time. So there Chandrayaan 1 actually touched moon or was actually placed in moon's orbit for the very first time. Then in 2019 we tried to land Chandrayaan 2 on the moon's surface, specifically on the southern pole of the moon. Now we will be looking why we are most focused on the southern aspect of the moon, but we have to understand it was the first time in Chandrayaan 2 that we desired to land on near the southern part of the moon. Then but due to some unfortunate event, we did not successfully land the lander and the rover on the moon during Chandrayaan 2 in 2019, but somehow we tried to place the satellite in moon's orbit in 2019. Now when Chandrayaan 2 was not a success, so ISRO was kind of disheartened, but never did they give their hopes up. So back in 2023 they successfully launched Chandrayaan 3 for its third attempt, right, if I can tell it. So in its third attempt in Chandrayaan 3, ISRO successfully launched and landed on the moon. So looking at the chain of events, we can see that on July 14th, the Chandrayaan 3 actually took off from Sriharikota. Then from around 14 July to 25th July, it was starting to maneuver or revolve around the Earth. And it was actually rotating and revolving around the Earth to actually jump from Earth's orbit to Moon's orbit, as we can see here. And again, Chandrayaan 3 also started revolving around, the Moon's orbit from 1st to August 16, from when the propulsion module of the Chandrayaan 3 started becoming active. Then on August 17th, the lander actually separated from the propulsion module of the Chandrayaan 3. And from here, it started its gradual descent from the moon's atmosphere towards the ground. And successfully we have seen as of yesterday on August 23, we have seen that the lander has finally successfully landed. So to discuss what are the objectives of the mission, the very first objective is to land the Vikram and Pragyan on the lunar surface. The Vikram is actually the lander, Pragyan is actually the rover. If I can tell, imagine this as just a vehicle or a spacecraft carrying a car inside. So the car is your rover, which has various sensitive equipments, such as it has radio interferometers, it has various ultraviolet equipments. So these equipments will be doing what? It will be studying the lunar south pole, and it will be carrying various scientific experiments around that particular area. Correct? Specifically, it will be searching for the probable evidence of water ice that are supposedly trapped in the lunar craters near the South Pole. So the broader object is to carry scientific equipments and experiments. And let me tell you, the lifetime of the mission is around 14 days. That means from around 14 days, or say 2 weeks from now, till 2 weeks, the rover will actually be studying the entire surface of the south pole of the moon, right? So we have to understand, for 14 days it will be studying, conducting experiments, looking for evidence of water ice, right? And from here we also come to know about an important term known as soft landing. Now, soft landing is actually referred to the descent that the Chandrayaan-3 did before landing on the surface. And let me tell you, soft landing is totally opposite to hard landing. So let us understand this by an example. Suppose, say, you are an astronaut and you are trying to land your spacecraft on the surface of the earth. One way you can do is directly, say, land in a vertical motion like this, but it will be putting too much impact of gravity and also the weight of your own spacecraft, right? So it will be putting some damage, right? But in soft landing, we actually adopt a parabolic path. That means over the course of time, we actually slow our equipment or spacecraft in such a way that when it impacts or it lands on the ground, it will not have this hard force on top of it, right? So this is the soft landing, where using various sensitive equipments, using propulsions, the lander, the Vikram, actually landed on the moon using soft landing. And this is very important. Why? Because we know that inside the Vikram we have the Pragyan, which will be carrying various sensitive equipments, so we need to keep them safe. That's why we needed a soft landing, which was actually not possible in the Chandrayaan-2 mission in 2019. We actually aimed for a soft landing, but ultimately we actually landed hard on the surface, and most of the equipments were kind of damaged in that process. Now, a question comes to our mind: why South Pole? Why South Pole of the moon? Because it is that part of the moon which is kind of isolated from our observation. So we kind of certainly don't know what are the land surface there, if there are some water ice there, if there are some lava trapped there, or if there are some important geophysical phenomena occurring there. So that is why we are more curious to explore the south pole of the moon. And let me tell you, not only India, before India there have been instances of Russia, right? There have been instances of China who also wanted to explore the south pole of the moon. And also, we need to send future missions to moon. Specifically, we will be also targeting humans to land on the moon. So before we land the human beings, so let us just go through the surface one. So that is why we have this overall objective of this mission, right? Now, let us discuss the significance. This is a historic achievement for entire nation, because I have already told that India is among the 4 exclusive nations to actually land on the moon, land a rover on the moon, and actually the very first nation in the whole world to actually land near the south pole of the moon. So it is an historic achievement. It is the result of hard work and long duration of work of the ISRO, specifically starting from Chandrayaan to Chandrayaan-2 failure to finally succeeding in Chandrayaan-3. So it is also testament to the fact that hard work and determination never goes in vain. Then we have to understand this is starting a new era in India's space engagement, because this is self-sustaining human presence beyond Earth. We are not only conforming to the physics and say biologies of the earth itself, we are trying to explore beyond that. And in that, our missions such as Chandrayaan-3 become very crucial, because it's trying to export our human knowledge beyond our earth's barriers, right? So this is actually also aiding the future interstellar exploration that we try to do, right? Interstellar exploration generally means that maybe one day beyond the moon we will be going to Mars. Beyond Mars we will be starting to think beyond our solar system. So beyond solar system we'll be starting to wonder about how we can move beyond galaxies. So when we try to think of traveling via space, we term that as interstellar exploration. And also this is not only matter of travel, right? This is also matter of resources, because in the space we find various rare earth materials, right? The say metals, the non-metals which are generally not commonly found in the earth's surface, we can easily find them across the meteors, the asteroids, even in the comets that are revolving around our solar system, around our planets. So the resources are also important apart from the travel itself. Then India must be wondering that it needs to shift from frugal engineering or very cheap or say very uninnovative engineering to ambitious and large scale projects. And that is what actually ISRO has proven, that we have now gone beyond frugal engineering or say just designing satellites to actually landing a rover on the moon and actually carrying experiments. So this is a very significant achievement. But let me tell you, the US missions, the Russian missions actually took a lot of less time. But now India should also think of using powerful rockets for actually sending more missions to moon and beyond, right? Then we have to understand that as of last year and last few years, Indian government has tried to focus on involving the private sector in the space industry. And this particular achievement is also trying to boost and encourage the private sector to come and build more of its own rovers, right? Just like we have, the SpaceX in the US. Right? So we also need some more private sector investment in this sector. Then when we talk about international cooperation, we have to understand agencies such as NASA, European Space Agency, Japan Space Exploration, which are big agencies apart from the ISRO all over the world. They all generally collaborate each other, especially in this mission also. We also learn from other nations. So there is also a need for international cooperation in future missions. Then we have to understand the geopolitical dynamics also. Since India is one of the main powerful nations in our Southern Asian and Southeast Asian nations, so India time and often tries to launch satellites for other countries, generally to help them. So we must understand that with this particular launch and success of Chandrayaan-3, we are actually getting more boost to our ambitions of geopolitical dynamics. Then finally, we have to understand that there are several legal frameworks and governance aspects when we are talking about space. Right? We have the Outer Space Treaty, for example. We have the Moon Agreement. We have something recently that India formally agreed to, the Artemis Accords. Right? So these, then Outer Space Treaty, then Moon Agreement, these are trying to evolve the rules of the game for the space sector. So India, through its success right now, we definitely have some bargaining power, right? We have some bargaining power as of now to effectively set our own rules of the games here. So let us understand this mission has been very, very significant. And let us see, apart from this, what are some other feathers in ISRO's cap or some other achievements which ISRO has over the time achieved. Now, starting from the very first satellite, which was the Aryabhatta, right? India gradually moved on to its first satellite launch vehicle, which was known as SLV-3, which was launched in 1990 from the Sriharikota, right? Then we tried to focus on the first lunar mission, which was known as Chandrayaan-1, which we discussed. For the first time, it actually touched the moon's orbit. And from there on, we also did the famous Mangalyaan mission on 2013. So we have to understand that ISRO has evolved over the period of years, and in recent years also ISRO has developed its Vikas engine. It was actually deployed also in various recent missions of ISRO, which is actually giving the initial throttling hot test, and it is actually helping the missions and satellites and the launch missions to be more stable, apart from the previous engines. Then in 2022, the Earth Observation Satellite 6 was launched, which actually is an Earth observatory satellite which is far more advanced from the other EOS satellites. Then the Mars Orbiter mission, the Mangalyaan, was also launched in 2013. Then the Cartosat satellite series was actually launched when it was found that this satellite is a very, very advanced satellite for taking advanced images of the Earth, which will be helping India in, say, governance. It will be helping in disaster management, and also it can help to boost international relations with other nations, because we can also help other nations with respect to disaster management, predicting floods, weather patterns. So we can understand that this satellite series has been very important. And last but not the least, the navigation for Indian constellation satellite system. And this is important. Why? Because this is actually India's own GPS. This was actually discussed a few days back only in our analyst program. So I encourage you all to actually go back and watch it. So this was also a very significant launch from the ISRO side. Now, there is all optimism all around us as of right now due to its success. Now we have to focus on the next mission, which is the Gaganyaan mission, which is about sending Indians to the space. So this is ISRO's next mission now, and India, and specifically ISRO, is definitely focused on its next mission. So we must be optimistic about the next mission, and also ISRO has started focusing on its next. Then it is a matter of national pride and prestige nonetheless, right? It is the success of our own organization, of our own people, of our own technology. So we have to understand that we must be keeping up this spirit, because this will be ultimately motivating the scientists and the other engineers and various other stakeholders to be more active. And also this can lead to the investment of private sector in space, because we have to understand it, the private sector ultimately depends, the encouragement, the investment depends on the national people also. So we have to focus on this. Then ISRO must continue its scientific research, right, and its space cooperation with other countries. This will be leading to more and more future successful missions of the ISRO. Now with this, let us go through the next one. The next one is regarding One Health approach of India. Now this is very important, because in GS2 we have something known as issue related to development and management of social services related to health, education and human resources. Specifically this is important related to health services in India. Now, why this is important? Because right now we have seen that India is taking many efforts, many steps to promote the concept of One Health. Now, let us understand what is One Health at all. One Health is nothing. It is very simple that we must be combining environment, health of human beings and health of our animal life. And when we are considering that all of these three stakeholders are important for our world, we are designing this concept of One Health. That means this is a concept that places animals, human beings and nature at the heart of our policy making of our health sector. Right? Now let us understand that for the very first time, the Hippocrates, right, in around 460 to around 367 BC, in his works, he first, for the first time, explained the link between our environment, the human beings and the animals. And he actually explored that in areas where there are lots and lots of human being population, or there is lot of population density of humans, and also where there are lots of population density of animals, those areas are generally more prone to diseases. Now you will agree, right, that where, for example, imagine a place where there are lots and lots of animals like say goats, like say cattle who are running haywire, right? They have no control. There are no certain place for them to stay. So they will be transgressing into human territories, and they also have some diseases of their own. So when they come in contact with human beings, right? This will lead to what? This will lead to the possibility of spread of animal diseases to human beings, and also the other way, the human diseases to animals. And also this will wreak havoc on the environment also, right? So this is the concept of One Health, where each and every aspect of environment, human being health and animal health is related. It is the interconnections between this, right? And why this is important? Because as of now, we have to understand, according to data, that 60% of emerging diseases as of now, such as rabies, right, such as dengue, then such as COVID-19, these are all some diseases which are influenced from animals, which are actually transmitted from animals to human beings, right? So we have various other examples of zoonotic diseases, and the risks of those diseases being spread are increasing over the period of time, right? Then we have also a very, serious concern in the antimicrobial resistance. To understand this, imagine that there is a poultry farm, right? Now the owner of the poultry farm will be aiming for maximum production of eggs and chicken, right? Now to aim for that production efficiency, that owner of the farm will be doing what? They will be injecting medicines into the poultry. But when we are injecting medicines, these medicines are to say boost the productivity, boost the amount of flesh quality, right? Increase the amount of yolk content in egg. So this will be leading to better efficiency of those animals. But we have to understand that over a period of time, the bacteria, the viruses actually become more prone to those medicines, and these lead to something known as antimicrobial resistance. Now this is a situation where the medicines, the usual medicines, generally do not work in a particular species. Now when this is actually say prevalent in the animals, this will be coming onto the human beings, and human beings also will be becoming antimicrobial resistance. That means if almost 10 years ago cold and cough syrup was actually working for you to reduce your cold, it is no more working today. Why? Because the germs and bacteria, they have become so smart that they are actually overcoming the effects of those medicines. That is known as antimicrobial resistance, and this is actually given more and more promotion if we are not following the One Health approach. Then we have to understand, according to G20, the economic benefits of actually adopting a One Health approach, maintaining proper segregation and separation between animals, livestock, that those benefits are around $30 billion a year. So this is the importance of having One Health approach, and that is why the Indian government has also launched several initiatives. The very first initiative was taken in 2006, where a standing committee on zoonosis was actually set up under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, where this was a committee appointed to look at the challenges of One Health that India is facing. So don't think that when COVID struck in 2020, then only the government became aware. It actually started back in 2006, which is a good thing. Then the Department of Biotechnology launched India's first consortium on One Health in 2021, specifically after the aftermath of the COVID crisis and the COVID pandemic, where around 31 crore for 3 years were allocated. Then in 2022, the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy, along with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with the Confederation of Indian Industry, the One Health pilot project in Karnataka and Uttarakhand was launched. So this is a pilot project to look into the various aspects, right, of various intervention schemes, such as say public policy in health, right, maintaining cleanliness, separation of say livestock from human beings. So they are doing a pilot project in Karnataka and Uttarakhand. So this is a very good initiative that Indian government, and also apart from the non-governmental sources, also taking. Then we also have something known as National One Health Mission, which is to be spearheaded by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor. So these are all the recent initiatives that India has taken, and with this we have to understand that going forward we have to switch to One Health approach totally in our educational, in our health, in each and every part of our social welfare schemes and policies. The government must be adopting some stages when we are trying to convert from the non-One Health approach to full One Health approach. The very first is communication. Right? For any particular objective policy to be successful, communication is very, very important, especially between various ministries, sectors, who will be communicating, and advising on various aspects of One Health and reviewing them on a regular basis. Right? Then the next step is collaboration. Collaboration means the transfer of knowledge, or that is known as knowledge transfer of, say, good corporate bodies which are following One Health approach. Then the short-term interventions, such as taking the approach of segregation of plant and animals from human settlements, especially the slum areas, right? Because these are areas which are very much concentrated. Then the short interventions can also be related to wet markets. These wet markets are actually what? These are markets where live animals are actually sold to the customers for meat, right? These markets are not actually regulated. So we must be trying to collaborate to actually transfer best practices, right, to end these things and also bring in efficiency. The next stage is about coordination. Coordination at the national level, state level and local level, where disease surveillance, such as if there are some new variants of COVID which are popping up as of now, we have to properly surveil them, right? We have to surveil them, we have to monitor the trade of animals which are happening between borders. We have to stop them, and also we have to spread awareness of these particular schemes and policies. Right? And finally, we must be trying to bring a convergence, or we must be trying to bring integration of various government schemes, such as the integrated disease surveillance programs, which actually tries to surveil the emerging diseases which are, say, spreading very rapidly in a particular part of the country. We have to integrate this scheme with a scheme such as livestock health and disease control. Right? Because, say, a particular disease is spreading between animals, we have to also treat that this is another disease which can spread between the people also. So we must be trying to integrate. As of now, these two particular schemes in India are not integrated. Right? If we do not integrate, then these will be just schemes remaining on paper or ad hoc schemes which are not actually contributing anything. So to have an One Health approach, we must be thinking everything together. That is important. Now coming to next article is a very, very interesting article, and this is important especially because we have a particular term known as awareness in the fields of information technology, where the author is actually talking about the possibility of artificial intelligence, right, becoming ethical and moral. Right? Now, we have to understand that according to a peer-reviewed article, right, we have to understand that they have found that AI can be ethical or moral or not. Right? So, before this, we have to understand some very basics. Now, via concepts such as ethics, morality, we means that human beings generally take some actions, and those actions can be ethical or unethical, moral or immoral. This means that there have to be some universal principles, right? There have to be some universal principles which show that the human beings or anything in general is doing something rational, something very logical. Right? So ethics generally means that the human principles must be universal in nature so that their actions become rational and logical. Morals are generally pertaining to individuals' own sets of beliefs. Right? So let us understand the concepts with regard to this article. Now let me ask you the thing that what is human decision making. Suppose that you go to your nearby store, right? So you do what you think, that you have to buy some staple items for your consumption. So you have to buy some goods and services for your own entertainment. Now this is some decision that we generally make on a daily basis. So these are individual decisions, right? Now when we talk about collective decision making, such as say traffic signals, such as say designing some welfare scheme for the people, so these are some government decisions which are made, right? And they generally are very complex in nature, because in daily lives we do some trade-offs, or we do something sacrifices, right? So these sacrifices are actually very complex in nature, right? Now come artificial intelligence. Now we know that technologies such as ChatGPT, Google Bard, Microsoft Bing AI, so these are what? Some artificial intelligence programs which can answer the very complex questions in a very simple manner, right? But when we move away from the knowledge they have to actually thinking if they're actually ethical or not, that is the question which becomes very important. Because the artificial intelligence in decision making, we have to understand, have various applications, such as artificial intelligence is actually slated to be used in various jobs, such as content writing, such as replacing software engineers, right? So this is a decision that corporate bodies have to make, that if we will be using AI or some human beings for our regular jobs that can be done by say an AI program, right? Then government can also use AI in predicting various say frauds in various criminal activities. So government can also make some AI applications. Then there are applications of AI in research and various other areas also, where we have seen that the artificial intelligence is being deployed in each and every section of our society. And this is where the thing is becoming out of our control, right? Because we have to understand that decision making is a very human thing, because we have to understand, since ethics and morals are also universal and human in nature, they are very complex in nature too. And it is up to the human agency to figure out what is ethical and what is not ethical, right? Because AI such as say ChatGPT, Bard are not actually programmed to be ethical, right? They are not actually programmed to be ethical. They are programmed to be accurate. They are programmed to be logical in general, right? But ethics is a very complex thing, which generally these things are not trained on. And even if these models of say artificial intelligence are trained on being ethical, then what will be the parameter if the final thing will be ethical or not, right? So that is a very important thing that we have to consider. And here Immanuel Kant actually comes to the picture, because Kant heads a branch of ethics known as deontological ethics, which means that the human beings are bound by its autonomy to make decisions, right? Human beings must be making their own decisions. They must be having their own rationality and a sense of moral duty, that if you're having some duty, you have to do that. And in that moral sense of duty, you have to consider, right, various logic, rationality, autonomy, correct? And programming ethics into any program is very difficult, because there are no set parameters of ethics. Because say if something was actually moral yesterday, such as say caste system, that is not moral today. Even something which is say moral today may not be moral tomorrow. So ethics can never, or say morality can never be programmed into AI, right? It is very difficult. According to even some software engineers, they have told that it is the most difficult thing. It is much more difficult to actually make the next step of AI, right? Then we have to understand that there are some classifications of artificial moral agents, right? Can AI be ever moral? Let us understand through various types. The first type of some AI who can be moral, right? So let us see. The first is ethical impact agents. Ethical impact agents such as say when you are playing chess with a computer, the chess the computer program who is playing chess with you, they know the rules of the games, right? So they generally operate via some rules which are very simple in nature. Next, there are some implicit ethical agents, such as, say, when we board a flight, we know that when the flight is on a on its highest peak, it is on autopilot, right? It is on autopilot. That means that the flight will be on autopilot as long as the weather conditions will be stable, for example, as long as the engines will be working properly. And when some issues come up, then there will be some warnings that will be sent, right? Which is far more advanced than the ethical impact agents, because in such as programs such as chess, they do not give warnings to human beings. In autopilots, in implicit ethical agents, right, we generally give some instructions to the engines. Then moving one step ahead, we have explicit ethical agents who go beyond set rules. For example, say there can be an AI program, right, which is deciding some investment portfolio for you and also making some, right, good judgment on which stocks for you to invest, right? So these AI programs will be helping you to make some decisions, right? Then we have full ethical agents who actually are capable of making decisions, right, and also justifying with ethical judgments. And let me tell you, there are no machines, there can be no machines whatsoever, because only human beings are capable of doing this. Because to make any decision and actually to justify your decision requires human attributes. And according to even Kant also, that attribute is guided by autonomy, rationality, and your moral duty. As long as you are not having these three things, you can never be fully ethical agents, right? And that is why we human beings are only the full ethical agents here, right? So what did the research found out? We have been discussing this about research, right? The research found that, can AI be ethical? The research found out no. AI can never be ethical because it is human beings only who are capable of being full ethical agents, right? So let us, rest this debate to rest and safely conclude that AI can never be ethical, because ethics, moralities, these are something which are human attributes, right? And towards this, we have to understand that AI boom, which is happening right now, is very dangerously speeding up. So that is why the global community must be framing rules for that. Specifically towards this, the European Union has already released a draft rule on AI. Right, how to regulate AI, what should be the norms, and even some personalities such as Elon Musk, right? They have tried to say that we must be trying to put some bans or temporary bans on AI labs as of now, right? So these are the considerations that we must be thinking as a way ahead. Then we must be trying to follow Isaac Asimov's 3 rules. Now, Isaac Asimov was a very, is a very popular, writer who is giving 3 rules for robots. The first rule is that a robot may never injure a human being, or through inaction allow human being to come to harm. That means human beings cannot be harmed ever by robots, even by action or inaction. Then, after this rule, a robot must obey the orders given by human beings, except if a human being is saying any robot to kill someone, they will not be obeying that, right? Because the first rule say that humans cannot be harmed, right? And the last rule says that a robot must protect its own existence, right? Because as long as such protection does not conflict with the first and second laws. So robots must be allowed to protect themselves, but not at conflict with first and second laws. So these are some 3 laws given by Isaac Asimov, and these can be great means value addition points for answers with respect to AI and ethics. Now let us look at the next article. This is about the disappearance of data from RTI Portal. Now, the RTI portal is actually a very important portal where people actually file their complaints, right, regarding various government bodies, and they generally receive information according to that. But according to some recent articles, this RTI portal is facing some issues, right? Now, before this, let us understand what is the RTI Act. The RTI Act, at the very heart of RTI Act lies information. Because we have to understand, information is power. Because only when you know about something, then only you can take actions, right? For example, say, you know that the government is trying to make some scams, right? They are involved in some illegal activities. But you do not have the information, you do not have the proof. From where will you prove it? Through information. And that is why we have to understand that in any government or in any state, in any polity, the provision of information to the citizens is very important. And according to this, in 1986, via the Mr. Kurwal versus Jaipur Municipal Corporation case of Supreme Court, it has been told that right to information is a fundamental right under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. That if we do not have information, the freedom to express our, expressions, right? So to actually facilitate the freedom of speech and expression, we need information, we need proper information, and that is why information is a powerful agency, especially for the citizens. And that is why in 2005 the RTI Act was passed, and here in section 2, under section 2 subclause J of RTI Act, the public authority has been defined. The public authority can be constitutional bodies, statutory bodies at the center level, at the state level, at the local level, right, where the citizens can go and seek for information, right? Information such as, say, taking notes, extracts, copy of documents, inspect works, documents, records. Then it can also take verified samples of government materials and obtain information in any mode. It can be via offline mode, it can be via digital mode. So this is actually make the government more transparent. And accordingly, when RTI was first launched, people had to mail their applications to the concerned government bodies. To make the process more simple, the government launched an RTI portal, right? RTI portal is enabling people to submit their RTI, request RTI, to do first appeal of RTI, to look at the status RTI. So the online portal is a website which is enabling people to, say, file their RTI cases, and here they can file their RTI applications and first appeals, right? There also is a payment gateway that will be facilitating the fee transaction. Say it will be charging, say, around 10 rupees per application. Then all the central department ministries are only under this portal, and the respective state governments have their own respective state RTI portal, right? The DOPT is actually administering the portal, while the National Informatics Commission Center is actually giving the internet infrastructure to it. Now, there have been some issues. The issue is that some RTI activists are alleging that, say, since the last 2 to 3 years, data of their own RTI applications are being erased from the portal. This is a very serious thing, because you have to understand that when the RTI activists are filing the complaints, that data should be remaining in the server, but the data is kind of disappearing according to their allegation. Now, according to DOPT, they are citing there are some heavy load on the websites. According to last year also, they have said that there are some heavy load of the infrastructure. Then there are also issues with related to retention of accounts. Some RTI activists have alleged that they have to constantly log into their RTI accounts to actually keep their accounts active, right? So this is another issue, because this is not convenient, right? If you have to log in again and again and again, maybe you will one day forget to log, and that time your RTI accounts may be, say, disabled, maybe, say, deactivated. So due to heavy load, limited server capability, massive traffic on the website, the government does not have enough resources to accommodate huge data, huge people at the same time. That is why the government may be facing this kind of issues. And finally, the portal is also lacking a forgot password option according to some RTI activist allegations. So this is also a serious thing, because once you say register and you forget your password, you can never say login to your account. So these are some of the issues that they are facing, and the government must definitely be looking into this. Now the last article of the day is about the discussion that is taking place at Jaipur in G20 meetings, that the WTO dispute resolution committee is not successfully operating as of now, and India is actually seeking to re-establish the dysfunctional dispute resolution mechanism under World Trade Organization. Now before moving on to the further details, let us understand what is the WTO. Since the world became more and more liberated, globalized, right, we can understand there has increased flow of goods and services. So to make these goods and services more fair, more transparent, WTO was set up, right? The location is at Geneva, Switzerland, and it was established at in 1995. Before this, we had something known as a GATT, General Agreement on Trade, right? So we had this when the goods and services to be traded were actually negotiated under the GATT framework, and the outcome of GATT is actually the WTO, right? So this is actually setting the rules of the game for the overall trade. Then it was actually created under the GATT negotiations of the Uruguay round, right? And the membership as of now around say 164 countries, in which India is also a part, and all of these countries actually contribute to around 98% of world trade. So we can simply say that the whole of the world trade, right, between the members of the WTO, right? And the principle of WTO is non-discrimination, because we have to understand the world is right now operating on common but differentiated goals, where we have to understand all countries in the world have the goal of say propelling their GDP, becoming more sustainable, right? But the differentiation comes because not all countries are same. Some countries like the Western countries are more economically strong than the other countries, such as the countries belonging to the global south. So these countries need to be on a fair play, and that is what the WTO is allowing these countries to be non-discriminatory in nature, specifically related to their trade practices, right? So in this, WTO also has a dispute resolution mechanism, right? It has a body known as the appellate body, and also the dispute settlement body, which will be trying to set the rules of the dispute resolution. Now say a country such as India is having issue with the US related to various trade disputes. Now when a country is member of the WTO, the first thing that the country needs to do is to consult between the countries themselves. Suppose India and US first themselves have to come to negotiation table. They have to discuss why they are facing some issues, and first they should be trying to solve this via negotiations. Then under the WTO, if negotiations and consultations are not working, we can go on to panel proceedings. Now these panels are some group of experts, right, who are appointed by the WTO to hear the case that was going under consultation and make a hearing, right, and make a ruling also. And that ruling the countries need to follow. Now say the losing country in this panel proceedings is not happy with the judgment or the ruling. Now there, that country has an appeal, right, to make it under the appellate body. Now the appellate body will be considering the case after the panel proceedings. Here there are some group of 7 experts. Now the issue is that this group of 7 experts are dysfunctional, because since 2019 the US government is not appointing judges, right? They are not appointing judges to this appellate body. And also the dispute settlement body, which is a general council under the ministerial conference of the WTO, these are also not recommending the judges' names, right? So the US is facing this kind of issue, right? And also, since judges and say experts are not being recommended to this appellate body, the dispute settlement is suffering as a whole. So this is the thing that India is also talking about, that if WTO is there to non-discriminate between the trading partners, there should be dispute resolution bodies also, which is not happening. And that is why the G20 meetings are deliberating on this body. Okay. So this was all for today. I thank you for your patience in attending to the session. Till we meet again, all the best for your preparation. Thank you.